You wake up. You don't want to move. The room feels heavier than it should. Your thoughts loop the same three worries over and over like a song stuck on repeat. You call this a malfunction, but the real answer is far stranger. Depression might not be a broken brain, it might be a very old, very precise tool. Your brain didn't evolve to make you happy. It evolved to keep your ancestors alive long enough to pass on their genes. Every emotion you feel today was shaped by problems that existed tens of thousands of years ago. Fear kept them away from cliffs and predators. Disgust kept them away from rotting meat. So what problem was low mood built to solve? Psychiatrist Randolph Nesse spent decades asking that exact question. He noticed something odd. Every culture on Earth has depression, not just modern industrialized ones. Hunter-gatherer societies, isolated tribes, ancient texts from Mesopotamia and Greece. If depression were simply a malfunction, you'd expect it to appear randomly, unevenly, like a genetic glitch. Instead, it shows up everywhere, in a strikingly similar pattern. And in evolution, when something is universal, it's rarely an accident. Nesse proposed that low mood works like physical pain. Pain isn't a malfunction either, it's a signal. Step on a nail and pain forces you to stop walking on that foot. It's unpleasant on purpose. Nesse suggested that low mood might be an emotional version of the same alarm, not a broken leg. A broken plan. Think about what depression actually does to your mind. It slows you down. It strips away motivation for your usual goals. It makes you replay your problems again and again. That sounds like suffering for no reason. But what if it's actually a shutdown response, forcing you to stop chasing a goal that isn't working? This is where two researchers, Paul Andrews and J. Anderson Thomson, took the idea further. They proposed something called the analytical rumination hypothesis. Rumination just means dwelling on a problem, thinking about it from every angle. Andrews and Thomson argued that the intense looping thoughts of depression aren't random noise. They're a forced, uninterrupted problem-solving session. Your brain drags you out of your normal routine, cuts your appetite, disrupts your sleep, and removes distractions. Why? Because complex social problems, like a failing marriage, a lost job, a broken friendship, need sustained, undistracted focus to solve. Depression, in this view, is your mind clearing its schedule so it can finally deal with something it has been avoiding. Here's a question worth sitting with. Have you ever noticed that your worst depressive episodes tend to follow a specific kind of event? Not random bad luck, but something relational. A breakup, a rejection, a public failure, a loss of status. This isn't a coincidence either. Anthropologist Edward Hagen studied depression through a different lens entirely, one borrowed from economics. He proposed what's called the bargaining model of depression. In small ancestral groups, survival depended on cooperation. If you were being exploited, ignored, or undervalued by your group, silently accepting it could be fatal. But confronting the group directly was dangerous too. It could get you cast out. Hagen suggested that depression's visible suffering, the withdrawal, the low energy, the audible sadness, functioned as a costly, honest signal. It communicated to others without words that something had gone deeply wrong and support was needed. In this model, depression is a way of renegotiating your position in a relationship or a group without the risk of open conflict. Notice something these three ideas share. None of them describe depression as pointless. Nesse sees it as a shutdown signal. Andrews and Thomson see it as forced problem-solving. Hagen sees it as a social bargaining chip. All three treat the emotion the way biologists treat a fever. Uncomfortable, sometimes dangerous if it runs too hot or too long, but not without a function. This doesn't mean depression should go untreated. A fever that spikes too high can kill you just as easily as it can fight an infection. The same appears to be true here. Evolutionary psychologists are careful to separate an adaptive signal from a system that's stuck, one that never resolves the underlying problem and just keeps escalating. That distinction matters. It's the difference between a smoke detector that goes off because there's a fire and one that's wired wrong and never stops ringing even in an empty room. So why does this matter to you, specifically in your ordinary week? Because the modern world has quietly broken the conditions this system was built for. Your ancestors lived in groups of maybe 50 to 150 people. Every relationship was visible. Every conflict had a face attached to it. Today you can lose a job over an email you never see sent. You can be excluded from a group chat and never know why. You can compare your entire life to thousands of curated strangers online every single day. Your ancient alarm system is going off constantly. In a world of invisible threats and impossible comparisons, it was never designed to process. Here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. If depression evolved to force you into deep, sustained thinking about a specific unsolved problem, then a world full of constant shallow distraction may be one of the cruelest environments imaginable for it. Notifications, endless scrolling, background noise from morning to night. Your mind may be trying to pull you into the very stillness it needs to actually resolve something, and modern life keeps yanking you back out before it can finish the job. There's also a strange kind of reassurance buried in all of this. If low mood is, at least in part, an ancient signal rather than proof that something is fundamentally wrong with you, that reframes the experience. It doesn't erase the pain of it. It doesn't mean you should ignore it or wait it out alone. But it does mean the feeling has a logic. It's not chaos. It's a message written in a very old, very blunt language. One built for tribal life, now running on hardware, surrounded by circumstances it has never seen before. Researchers still debate how much of depression fits this adaptive framework and how much reflects a system that has simply gone wrong, especially in its most severe and prolonged forms. That debate isn't settled, but the core insight survives the disagreement. Your brain doesn't produce suffering at random. It produces signals, shaped by millions of years, aimed at problems your ancestors actually faced. Isolation, conflict, loss of status, failure to reach a goal that mattered. So the next time the weight sets in, the question worth asking isn't only, what's wrong with me? It's older and maybe more useful. What is this signal pointing at? What has gone quiet that needs attention? What conflict have you been avoiding because facing it felt more dangerous than simply feeling bad? You woke up today. The room still felt heavy, but maybe it was never a malfunction at all. Maybe it was your oldest system, still running, still trying, in its own blunt and ancient way to protect you.